Hi everybody and welcome to James's House of Rock. Today I'm here with Phil Gallagher and he's going to talk about the art of finger styling. So, what exactly is finger styling?
Well, fingerstyle is a form of playing the guitar. It's a style. Originally it originated in the 1500s with the lute players, and then gradually through the years the classical players, Spanish flamenco players, in the U.S., in the Celtic players in overseas. And in the U.S. it was called roots guitar.
Oh, I've heard of roots guitar
Robert
before.
Johnson and Blind Lemon Jefferson and Mississippi John Hurt, kind of blues players.
Yeah.
And then since then, with the popular players, I think Paul Simon in the early 70s popularized it. And, the Beatles when they came along, certainly Paul McCartney's Blackbird is one of the more famous fingerstyle pieces that's ever been written. So when you're deciding to play the guitar, you have to determine what type of style you're going to play. And when I first started in the 1970s, early 1970s, the teacher would ask me what I wanted to play, and I would say everything. I want to play everything.
Yeah.
In those days, it was Hendrix and the Beatles and surf guitar and all these kinds of things. So that didn't work out very well for me. And finally, I moved along for 7 or 8 years, not playing very well. And I finally met up with a fellow who explained to me that really, if you want to play, you should pick a particular style. And I found that that's what intrigued me the most, because of the fingerstyle type of playing. Yeah. Because I didn't sing, and I was musically hopeless. Oh. So playing chords just didn't work out for me.
Yeah, the chords don't usually work out for me either. They've done a few classes in music. I'm more into the percussion area, the drums and stuff like that. I've tried to pick up guitar a few times. It just didn't really work out for me.
Well, it didn't work out for me either, because I didn't get the whole music thing. Why is there 12 steps, and why isn't there a half tone between B and C and E and F? So the math didn't really work out for me. But what happened later on was that the technology caught up with the students. Yeah. In that you could, things that you heard, you would buy a book and it would just, like the Paul Simon book, just had chords, chords and words. It didn't really have the melody lines or any of those things. Yeah. But in '86, I think, the CD became very popular. 1986, I think. Dire Straits sold the first 1 million copies of a CD. And then maybe that was 85. 86, Whitney Houston sold 1 million CDs. So what then happened for the student, two things. The book was matched with tablature. Tablature, instead of having to read the notes, tablature is a form of finger positioning. Oh, all right. So you would see the notes, and then underneath it, the guitar fretboard would be laid out, and your finger positions up and down the neck would be laid out. And then you got the book, you got the piece, and you got the CD. So you were able to couple all of those things together. Yeah. And finally, for somebody who, was musically hopeless, you could do the finger positions without having to really know the notes. Yeah. Because unlike the piano, when you read a piano note, you know exactly where it is on the piano. Well, on the guitar, those notes reappear up and down the fretboard, twice on each string. So, somebody could be playing in the 12th position, 7th position, whatever. You wouldn't know that just by looking at the music unless you had the tablature. So that coupled with, those two things then enabled you to get pieces. Yeah. Because you would hear all kinds of music, but where would you find the music that had those components in it? Exactly. And it started to really take off. This is a Mel Bay book in 2000, and he put out an anthology series of fingerstyle, jazz, and blues. Oh, wow. And they had literally hundreds of pieces that were done up in that style. Yeah. And then from there, you could buy all of these crazy master classes. Here's a fingerstyle gig book that had, you know, every popular piece you could think of.
Wow.
That came out at that time. And previous to that, and they had it in the same format. So you had that, you had the CD,
Yeah.
you had the tablature, and you had the music that you like. So it was a combination.
Wow.
And then it just kept getting better and better. This is a Henry Mancini book, which, as you know, he had a huge number of hits. So that was a master class.
Yeah.
And again, it had the CD, and it had some brilliant guy who was writing the arrangements of those pieces for guitar in tablature. So it was quite a step forward, and for the student who finally decided that you know, they had picked a style, now you had this just huge selection of pieces that you could buy.
That's great.
And then there was another one, was a fingerstyle series. This came out in '94, and there were 70 of these. And it did a couple of things. It exposed you to everybody who played in that style.
Yeah.
You know, Alex DeGrassi, Chris Proctor, Happy Traum, Tommy Flint, Andy McKee, endless, Leo Kottke.
Yeah, I have Andy McKee here. I really liked the
drifting
combination of like hitting the guitar and then doing the
percussion slap harmonics, they call that. And he does his chord configurations up here with his left hand, but he plays the right hand along the fretboard and plays a percussion with it. The interesting thing about that piece I sent you is that has 50 million YouTube hits.
Oh, wow. I didn't even look at views like that. I was just paying attention to how his fingers were moving.
Right, 50 million.
The one thing I liked about most of the ones you sent me were how like effortless it seemed like they were. I mean, obviously you have to put a lot of effort into that, but it looked like they were just like drifting off into space and it just happened. So I'm guessing it's an easy one to pick up once you've learned it, or?
Well, when you're a virtuoso like those guys, everything looks easy, you know. Tuck Andrus is another one. I sent you a couple actually that were arrangements done by them of Michael Jackson pieces.
Yeah, I saw the Billie Jean, The Man in the Mirror,
Yeah, well that Tuck Andrus piece was another elevation, excuse me, another elevation of classes in that I think that was a Hot Licks video. And that was the coupling of the arrangement with the tablature, and then with the player on DVD showing you showing you how to play it.
Now, I was really surprised how young the other player was in the Billie Jean one with the duet. I was surprised how young the kid on the left
fellow,
was.
Interesting. That's Sung Ha Jung is his name. He's a South Korean kid, and he's been on YouTube since he was about 9 years old. But he's a different type of player in that he plays by ear. Those arrangements mostly are his own, that he's created by listening to the tune and then transposing it onto guitar.
I have a few friends, like I play saxophone, and I've had friends over the years that I've played with that could do that. Like they could hear something once and just memorize it and even add to it sometimes. Like they could find notes to harmonize with it.
Well, those are musically talented people, and unfortunately I'm musically hopeless. So in order for me to play something, I have to, you know, visualize the
I kind of have to have the music with me.
And I have to have the music, the tablature. And then on top of that, you have to hear it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you don't know what time it's in. You don't know what nuances there are, embellishments there are on the various notes.
That's the one thing that I've never needed. Like even the music book they required me to have for school came with a CD. I've never used it. I've never needed to hear it. Once I play the notes, I'll figure out how they all work together. Like even if I don't know the melody at first, I'll like play through the notes like just randomly, and then I'll realize how they all fit in with each other. I've been playing the saxophone since 4th grade. So.
Well, that's the difference between a musician and somebody who has no talent and would like to be a musician.
So I think you mentioned it before, but how long have you been like?
I've played since probably 1970.
Oh wow, that is a while.
I saw in those days. I saw Hendrix, Jimi Hendrix, who just exploded the guitar world. I saw Segovia in Boston. I saw Jose Feliciano. And I think one of the biggest influences on me at the time was Buffalo Springfield,
I think I've
which was Stephen Stills, Richie Fury,
Yeah.
Jim Messina, and Neil Young. Neil Young,
Oh,
who's
Neil Young,
still,
yeah.
you know, going strong after 45 years.
Yeah. Have you ever played like a concert for family, friends, or like
I
a
play at
benefit
home.
concert?
Unfortunately, I'm musically hopeless, and I also have stage fright. So
Oh, yeah.
it's a combination of two very bad
That's a
things. in
very
music.
bad combination.
Yeah, it is.
Being
So I play
able
at
to play
home.
it, but stage fright, very bad combination.
I actually did a program for Beat Cat about 10 or 12 years ago, and I had a repertoire of about 8
Yeah.
pieces, and Tricia Hicks actually was the director at the time, and there was an Allman Brothers piece that was a duet by Dickie Betts and Duane Allman called Little Martha,
Oh,
which is a famous, very famous fingerstyle piece, and so I had that. I had Blackbird and a few others, and I had them down pretty well. You know, I could sit in my living room and play them back and forth, no problem.
Yeah.
But I think I did about 10 takes of Little Martha, none of which was acceptable to me, so
Yeah.
I canned that project.
Do you know if any of the episodes are still on YouTube? Or on
Oh,
like
no,
the
no,
VCAT
no, I
channel?
canned the
or-
project. We didn't,
Oh,
no.
yeah.
It might be still around here in,
Oh, yeah.
in some of the outtakes, you know, but
Well,
I hope it was
Yeah.
destroyed.
Because I was gonna say I'll link it up with my
No, no,
website, but
no, you wouldn't
if
wanna
it's
do
in the
that.
can, then we can't really do that.
No, because it's me flying through the piece and then making a mistake and then stopping.
Yeah.
Because if you don't play them perfectly, you know, it's no good if you don't play them perfectly. You know.
So, what kind of music are you into? Like rock, jazz, blues?
Mostly all of it. I'm a guitar snob, I guess, is what
Yeah.
I would describe myself as. I have about 13 or 14,000 iTunes.
Oh wow.
Mostly guitar players, you know.
Yeah.
A lot of vocalists, a lot of popular stuff from the old days, but you know, Jeff Beck, Jimi Hendrix, Eric Clapton, Eric Johnson, Robin Ford, Ronnie Earl, Lawrence Juber, you know, all the great guitar players. And the old players too, Buddy Guy,
Yeah.
Albert King, B.B. King,
Yeah.
you know, the old black blues players. So mostly guitar music.
Yeah. Our house is filled with CDs too, and it's usually rock music, which is where where my whole thing came from that led to this, I guess.
Yeah.
But we have like Eric Clapton, we have Jimi Hendrix. I like those.
Well, it separated
Kinda.
me a little bit when they went into the head knocking, the shredders.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't go too much for that. Although in the early stages, when I was a kid, we used to watch Les Paul and Mary Ford, and it basically featured her as the singer, but he had made so many innovations in guitar amplifiers.
Yeah.
That later on I became more aware of how important he was.
Yeah.
Actually, he's the only person that's in the Inventors Hall of Fame and in the the Rock Hall of Fame.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Like how many concerts have you been to for some of these people? Just
Tons.
Too many to
tons.
count?
Yeah, too many. But now, much more so, the venues. There are smaller venues now that you can go to. You couldn't always see some of these players because, you know, there wasn't a lot of places you could go. But now there's the Regent Theater, there's T-Cans, there's Scullers, the Jazz Cafe, Acton Jazz Cafe. So there's a number of places in Cambridge that you can go and see them. So I've seen some really great players. There's also up in Londonderry, there's the, it escapes me at the moment, Tupelo Hall. Tupelo Hall. And the Bull Run out in Shirley has a lot of these players that come through. You know, not people that are going to have 10,000 people in the audience.
Yeah.
You get
Those are
300
only
or
the big
400.
stadiums.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a lot of them that come through that you can see in pretty intimate venues.
Yeah. So as we said there's too many to count, but is there any favorites you could pick out of that you could remember? Or
Well, right now, Ronnie Earl is a favorite of mine. He's a finger player, but he's an electric blues player.
Oh.
He's right out. He's from Acton. He's from around here.
Yeah.
Ronnie Earl and the Broadcasters is the name of his band. Used to be able to see him right over at the Sit and Bull pub in Maynard while it was open.
Yeah.
You go see him play. I mean, a world-class guitarist, and there might be 15 or 20 people there on a
like
Friday night,
just like a
Wednesday
bar
night.
concert.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah, so I saw a lot of Ronnie Earl there. I've seen Lawrence Juber a number of times. Now, Lawrence was an electric player. He was the lead guitarist for Wings,
Yeah.
for Paul McCartney, and he's since gone over a strictly solo career. And if you get a chance, one of Jimi Hendrix's greatest guitar pieces is called Little Wing.
Little Wing.
Actually, Rolling Stone named him the #1 guitarist of all time, and that as his #1 piece. Now, it's been covered by every major guitarist, you know, Steve Vai, Satriani, everybody's played it, Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Yeah.
But if you see Lawrence Juber's piece, he does it fingerstyle acoustic of his own arrangement. And, I mean, it's just an extraordinary,
Wow.
it's a virtuoso piece
Yeah.
by Juber. He, I would say, is one of the top, if not the top player, in my estimation. You know, there's a million opinions out there.
Yeah. There's too many.
But when you learn to play, when you choose that style, there's even more into it. You can play the Chet Atkins style, which a fellow for Dire Straits, he plays that style. His name escapes me right at the moment, Australian kid. But that's with the thumb pick, and then you're picking the lower strings with your remaining 3. Juber plays just with the pads of his fingers.
Yeah.
And then there are other players. You'll see Lawson Rollins, who's a flamenco type of classical player, and he's all nails. So, yeah, and then there's other players who play with finger picks on all of their fingers. So you have to kind of pick a style that you're going to use within fingerstyle.
Yeah.
In order to to keep your chops up, because you can't just change from one and another if you're playing if you're playing an intricate piece.
Yeah, not only picking a style, but it's more like a comfort thing. What fits your fingers the best, like the pads, the finger picking, or the nails.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you have to come up with a million ways to keep your nails in one shape or another, or your pads, for that matter, the pads of your fingers.
Yeah.
A pad player could pick up a hot coal out of the barbecue, because they've built up so many calluses in those areas. Stevie Ray Vaughan used to he would glue his calluses back on with super glue. And there's other players who use ping pong balls, for instance, because there's nothing worse that can happen to a nail player than you break a nail off before a performance,
Yeah.
So they would cut up a ping pong ball, super glue it on.
I guess whatever you got to do to deliver your fans a good show.
Whatever you got to do, exactly. Now, for the plectrum player, that's not a problem. You know, somebody uses a pick, they might lose it mid-performance. I've seen that happen a number of times.
Yeah.
You'll see them, they have picks lined
Drop
up
it in the middle of the guitar.
Exactly.
That happened to me a lot in music class when we did that.
Yeah. Well, it can happen because, like anything, you shouldn't choke the pick. You shouldn't choke your fingers. So you're playing with a kind of a light feel, and you might, hit a little too strong in a string, and the thing will flip right out of your hand and go into the sound hole or what have you.
You really got to do practice. Practice makes perfect there. Over the years, you'll get better at it, but first off, you're going to probably make a lot of mistakes in that area.
Practice. It's like anything. I don't care what you're doing. If you're a surgeon, you're a guitar player.
Surgeon is probably the most important for
Probably
practice.
most important, I would think. Yeah. But anything you want to do, if you want to do it well, it involves practice.
Yeah.
And I think the thing I've learned, which any guitar teacher or music teacher will tell you, is, when you're picking up a piece, you're not going to go in and play it like Jimi Hendrix played it. You know? So forget about that. Get it down, start it slow so that you are in tempo. Use a metronome if possible, and make sure that you're playing the piece in tempo all the way through.
Yeah.
And then gradually, as you become, more aware of the finger positions, you can pick up speed. But if you think you're going to go right in there blazing away,
yeah, it's like
not gonna
with any
happen.
instrument. You got to start slow with the more simpler things. You can't jump right to a big piece. Like it's just any instrument you have to do that. Guitar probably is one of the harder ones in that area of instruments to do the jump to a big thing, but it's
Well, it depends
really
on your
anything.
arrangements, excuse me.
Yeah.
Similar to the piano, I mean,
Yeah.
any instrument. The more intricate the arrangement, the more time you have to spend practicing it.
Yeah. As a saxophonist, I know it's hard to master things like anything. Do you think finger styling would be an incredibly hard thing, or just?
Well, it's always been extremely difficult for
Yeah.
me, so I can only speak from my own experience. I took piano for a while, and I thought that was perhaps a little easier to play.
I do like the piano. Yeah,
It's more understandable than the guitar
Yeah.
is, because there's all kinds of things, particularly if you're a chordal player, with the variations of the chords, and again, where they appear, they can appear anywhere up and down the
Yeah.
fretboard. And, the root may be on top, the root may be on the bottom, root meaning the name of the chord.
Yeah.
If you're playing a G chord, you might play an inverted G chord, a major, a minor, a ninth, a seventh, who knows? So.
Yeah, I'm, like you said, musically hopeless when it comes to instruments like the guitar and stuff like that. I can play more of a classical type of thing. I can do saxophone and that kind of stuff. But we were reviewing it in music class, the thing, he's going through all the notes. I was like, how many G's are there? How many could you have?
Well, you can have fun with the guitar, particularly if you can sing, because
Yeah.
originally the guitar was mostly an accompaniment instrument.
Yeah.
And it didn't really show up even in the big band era. It was part of the ensemble, but it was rarely wasn't a
Yeah.
lead piece. For the folk guitarists who came out, and the roving minstrels, again, was in the very early stages, it was a accompaniment instrument. The classical players brought it out, in Spain, etc., as a concert instrument. But in the U.S., contemporary players, really, it didn't jump onto the scene until, somebody could stand up there like Hendrix in the Power Trio.
Yeah.
You had a bassist, you had an electric player, and you had a drummer. And, that alone could carry a 2-hour show. I mean,
Yeah.
you think of all the great ones. I mean, Traffic with Clapton, the Allman Brothers, they had dueling guitars. Beck played in a power trio. The Yardbirds had the three of the greatest guitarists that ever played. Clapton, Jimmy Page, and Jeff Beck, and they were frontmen.
Yeah, in my opinion, you can't have rock music without the guitar and the bass guitar. That's just it wouldn't sound right.
No.
You need to have a good vocalist too, but lead guitar and bass guitar are the most important parts in your band. You have to make sure you have good players in that area.
And there was others too. I mean, if you look at what spurred guitar sales, for instance.
Yeah.
Okay. Why did everybody want a guitar? Well, Elvis Presley.
Yeah.
Okay, Elvis Presley came along, and he was this incredibly handsome cat. He could sing, he just had a golden voice. But he had a guitar in his hip, swinging around. Geez, everybody said, I'll be a guitarist like Elvis. Well, that's great, except Elvis's guitarist was James Burton, who was this country picker who was just unbelievable. And he also played for Ricky Nelson's band. And there were others during the time. Link Ray was a great guitarist during that period of time. And the surf guitarist Dick Dale, I think he played with the Ventures for a while too, which is a very popular instrumental group. Actually, I think they're the largest selling instrumental group of all time. So, these guys were just crazy,
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do more research on this topic.
Well,
quite
if you look at
interesting,
the evolution of the
history
rock
there. Yeah.
guitarist, those guys would figure very prominently in it.
Yeah.
And then when the Beatles came, the Beatles, and followed shortly thereafter by the Rolling Stones, you know, Keith Richards and Ronnie Wood and those guys, they changed rock music forever.
Yeah.
Because their pieces were no longer just 4 chords or 3 chords,
Yeah.
you know, a 1-4-5 type of thing. I mean, you had the Beatles who were putting together some of the, you know, most intricate arrangements that ever showed up in popular music.
So any final things to tell our fans here before I get to
practice.
Yeah,
and,
just
there's some websites. All you have to do is really Google fingerstyle guitar and fingerstyle tab and any of that type of stuff, and it'll bring up hundreds of sites and thousands of pieces.
Send me some links. I'll put it up on James' House of Rock.weebly.com. Can check out some of it. Thank you, Phil, for being in here. Now,
Thank you, James.
I know it's been a long time since I've done the last episode, so there's a lot of new albums here. From My Chemical Romance breaking up, we have Frank Iero and the Calibration released his solo album Stomach Aches, Accept, Blind Rage, Gaslight Anthem, Get Hurt. I heard Gaslight Anthem's really good. I gotta maybe do an episode on that later on. Godsmack, 1000 Horsepower, Skid Row, Rise of the Damnation Army, Adelita's Way, Stuck. I did Adelita's Way on an earlier episode, if you remember. Theory of a Dead Man, Savages, Fozzy, major metal band for you metalheads out there. Do You Want to Start a War? Rise Against, Black Market. Gerard Way, again, from My Chemical Romance breaking up, his solo album, Hesitant Alien. Really good album, by the way. You should look it up. Aerosmith, Baying at the Moon. Weezer, Everything Will Be Alright in the End. You've probably heard Back in the Shack at this point. It plays a lot. 6 a.m., Nikki Sixx's band, Modern Vintage. Nonpoint, another metal band, Return. Flyleaf, Between the Stars. And Slash featuring Miles Kennedy, World on Fire. That's another really good one to listen to. Otherwise, Peace at All Costs. And Color and Sound, I had one of their lead singers on earlier in the season, have released their second EP, Peace of Mind. Check that out on the iTunes store. Now on to new concerts. Fits and the Tantrums are playing the House of Blues Boston on November 15th to 16th. Living Color, Paradise Rock Club in Boston on November 30th. HIM or Him, I saw them once, I mentioned this another episode. The House of Blues Boston, December 10th. Buck Cherry at the Jewel Nightclub in Manchester, New Hampshire on December 18th. And Seether and Papa Roach, this sounded like a really good, they got featuring King too, at Foxwoods on January 15th and House of Blues in Boston on the 18th. And then another concert that I'd really like to see, Linkin Park and Rise Against, at the Dunkin' Donuts Center in Providence, Rhode Island on January 24th. Thank you again, Phil. Thank you for watching. I will see you on the next episode of James's House of Rock.